Stuck, has to get a shot off, no foul call. Kicks out to three, East, it's good! Tiara East!
Wow! Recognize that voice? That's one good announcer and one better shot from Tiara East.
Plus, High-Steer Miller hits a three from way downtown to send Temple into a second straight overtime game. Overtimes and buzzer beaters, oh my.
I'm Sam Cavone, live from the Leah Corus Center. Later on in the show, I will be taking a look at the men behind Coach Adam Fisher and how they're trying to lift this team as it rebuilds.
And I'm Kylie O'Connor, live from the studio set. Later on, I'll be diving deeper into women's basketball, along with the updated AAC standings for both the men and women. Courts in Session is live, and it starts right now.
All rise, court is officially in session. I'm the judge, Jake Gable, alongside our courtroom clerk, Hayden Mandel.
We will be the assessors on the state of Temple basketball following overtime losses on Sunday, and it ain't pretty. Let's start with the women. On the road on Sunday, looking for their 5th road win of the season and a season sweep against Charlotte. And this was a marathon. Temple beat the 49ers at home 2 weeks earlier. Now we're going to see Tiara East going up with the lefty. No good. Niners end up with the board. But wait, East is going to get the assist from the floor as she finds a cutting Rain Tucker. Later, Aaliyah Nelson finds Terriana Gary to give Temple their first double-digit lead of the afternoon. To the fourth quarter, after Temple was up as much as 17 in the third, Deja Lawrence cuts the lead to 6 with 2.5 to go. Lawrence also scored her 1,000th career point in the game. Temple now with an opportunity to walk out with the win towards the end of regulation. Demi Washington, the trigger woman, gets it into Nelson, the leading scorer for the Owls. Her floater is off the back of the iron, and we go to overtime. We're still tied towards the end of the first overtime. This time, Charlotte with possession. Houston gets it to Lawrence, who hits it. Temple gets a taste of their own medicine. Or do they? The clock had stopped for no reason with 5.4 seconds. The officials even brought out a stopwatch, and they deemed it no good, so we head to a second overtime. Under a minute in double OT, Temple still down by 4. Nelson driving in, spinning, fading, and it rattles in and out, and it leads to a Niners fast break opportunity and a great outlet pass to Lawrence, who puts this game out of reach. Temple falls 88-81 in double overtime against Charlotte to split the season series.
When you play a full game plus 2 overtimes, there's going to be a lot of minutes played. Nelson and Tucker both played over 40 of them. The Owls also had 4 different players foul out. By the end of the game, Nelson was the only starter left. Terriana Gary led Temple in scoring despite coming off the bench. And for Charlotte, Deja Lawrence had 29 points and eclipsed 1,000 career points. Almost all of these came after halftime. Lawrence only had 4 points in the first half. After the game, Coach Richardson was talking about defense and fouls. The Owls shot just 13 from the line compared to 30 for Charlotte.
Well, I mean, we had to play some tough defense. It seems like, a lot of fouls get us in trouble. We have to play defense without fouling. Well, I like the aggressiveness and I like the team defense and how we're helping each other. The fouls, we've got to, obviously we got to stop that. Maybe we weren't showing our hands on defense. We try to defend with moving our feet and showing our hands. But, I got to look at the film. There's a lot of things I'd love to clip and see what the interpretation was from the referees. We got to get better. I mean, if they're calling those fouls, we got to see why they're calling them, and then we got to fix it.
Took on Wichita State at home. Very first possession of the game, Aaliyah Nelson came to play and splashes the 3-pointer. 2 minutes later, Demi Washington finds, guess who? Nelson again with the tray ball. With a 12-2 lead in just 3 minutes into the game. The Shockers start to find their shot, however. Daniel Abies with the mid-range jumper. Wichita State now finds themselves in the lead. Third quarter, and Celeste Blow gets the circus shot to go. Nelson the Owls waste no time as they get it to Tiara East, who does the rest using the glass. Owls down by 2 with 5 seconds left. Inez Piper is blocked. She gets it back and kicks it out to East for the win, and it's good. The game-winning three-pointer, and this time it counts. Exactly 1 game after her game-winning three-pointer against SMU was waved off. Temple gets the win in the thriller, 66-65.
Tiara East not only hit the game-winning 3, but led the Owls with 15 points. Aaliyah Nelson and Demi Washington dropped 13 and 12 respectively. All 9 Temple players who saw the floor scored as well. For Wichita State, Daniela Abies led the way with 19 and 14, her 6th double-double of the season. Ornella Nianen reached double figures for the 3rd time this season with 11 off the bench. Sleets Blow finished with 10. We now welcome to the desk Courts in Session beat reporter Kylie O'Connor. Thanks for joining us, Kylie.
2 close games, an overtime loss, and a buzzer beater win. What'd you make of the play of the Owls?
So I want to start with the game against Wichita State. In the first 3 minutes, they were up 12-2, and Nelson had 8 points. But they started to slow down. At the end of the quarter, Temple was only up by 2, and then they got outscored by the second quarter. And then for the game against Charlotte, they were up 39-27 in the first half, and then got outscored 23-9 by the fourth quarter. The games are getting too close, and they're starting to slow down towards the end.
Yeah, for me, this team has been consistently inconsistent. They win a lot, but then they also lose a lot. And they're going to have to win at least 3 straight games in Fort Worth, Texas. And Diane Richardson even talked about this, literally tweeted yesterday on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that one of the things that they are working on is this consistency. But the American is a 1-bid league, and they're going to have to get a hot stretch at some point, especially when it comes down to March.
Well, I am going to be a little bit more positive than you negative Nancy's over here. The offensive rebounding has been great, even if they lost one of the 2 games. Temple's 5th in the nation in offensive rebounds per game. The last 2 games combined, they have out-rebounded opponents 38-18, so they've been really good in that department.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Now, there is one player on the women's side that I would like to highlight after making a big impact in that close game, and that is guard Tiara East. In the game against Wichita State last Wednesday, East had the game-winning 3, which happened just a week after she hit another game-winning 3 ball that was eventually called off against SMU when a ref showed the shot is just after the buzzer. In the game against the Shockers, East also went 6 for 6 from the line and also put up 15 points total. That led the team. Then, in the next game against Charlotte this past weekend, she tied her season high in rebounds at 7 in that double overtime loss. That's all I have for right now, but when we come back, Jake and Hayden will dive deeper into the men's game versus Tulane over the weekend. Don't go anywhere. Courts in Session will return in 90 seconds.
Welcome back to Courts in Session. The men's team went down to Tulane on Sunday and needed a win desperately. Temple came into this one trying to snap a 6-game losing streak that stretches back to the first week of January. Down in New Orleans at Devlin Fieldhouse, Tulane's pass almost stolen. The Green Wave get it back, and Kevin Cross flushes it. Tulane now up 7 with 7 left in the first half. Jaleel White spins his defender right round like a record baby for the layup. Tulane up 5 towards the end of the first half. Zion James blows right by the D for the score. Second half now, Owls down 3. Heiser Miller says, "Let me change that." The rim didn't cooperate, so White said, "Fine, let me do it myself," with the and 1. The Owls up 2 and a great give and go. Cross finds James, who rocks the rim with authority. Temple down 7 with just over 2 minutes left. Steve Settle hits the 3 and 1. 12 seconds left. Owls down 3. Miller from the parking lot hits it, and we are going to overtime. And well, the fun ended there for the Owls, scoring just 4 points in overtime, falling in a game that was closer than the final score might look, 92-80.
This was Temple's second consecutive OT loss. White tallied 21 points to go along with 15 rebounds in the contest. That is the most points and rebounds combined from White in his career. Jordan Riley dropped 23 points to set a new career best that he set earlier in the season. The Green Wave was the one getting green buckets, especially in overtime, outscoring the Cherry and White 16-4. Kevin Cross had 27 points, making a career-high 15 free throws. Colin Holloway, who was teammates with Jordan Riley at Georgetown, had his fourth 20-point outing of the season.
Overtime has not been kind to either Owl squad this season. The women's team against Charlotte saw each team score only 6 points in the first OT, but Charlotte won the second overtime 16-9. The women's team only other overtime game was a loss against St. Joseph's in November. Speaking of November, that was the last time a Temple team won an overtime game, when the men beat LaSalle in a triple OT thriller to clinch a trip to the Big 5 championship. The men were outscored by 12 in OT in the loss against Tulane, putting both Temple squads at a combined 1 win and 4 losses when they play past regulation. On the men's side, it's not just Coach Fisher trying to overcome this overtime trouble. Fisher has an experienced staff of assistants by his side.
Courts in Session beat reporter Sam Cavone joined us live from the Leah Chorus Cellar to tell us more on the story. Hey, Sam.
Thanks, guys. While eyes are always on Coach Fisher, many forget that he has a group of coaches right behind him who he handpicked when he was hired last spring. These coaches include his former co-workers and his former players. A new coach for men's basketball means a new coaching staff coming in right behind him.
When he had the opportunity to get the job here at Temple, he gave me a call and definitely was ready and willing to come down and help him out.
Michael Huger, Bobby Jordan, and Cameron Winter all jumped at the opportunity to come join rookie head coach Adam Fisher. Bobby Jordan's move made sense both professionally and personally. He's from Philadelphia.
The chance to come back home and work for, Coach Fisher was a great opportunity for me, for my family.
Huger, the associate head coach, knew Fisher from their time coaching the Miami team. Jordan met Fisher when the two were at different schools, but recruiting some of the same players. And finally, Winter played under Fisher at Penn State and almost begged for the job.
Throughout the year at Penn State, I would always just make jokes about if he got a head coaching job, me going with him.
With their new positions, all 3 coaches want to make sure that Temple makes it back to the tournament and that they continue to have fun along the way.
And if we can help those guys achieve their goals in the process of us achieving ours, then I think we were successful.
Although this season has been a rocky one for the Owls, restoring the history and respect of the Temple basketball program is one of the biggest goals for these 3 coaches. The goal is for this to come sooner rather than later. While a postseason run is very unlikely, this coaching staff needs to keep an eye on the future as they try to rebuild Temple standings in college hoops. Reporting live from the Leah Chorus Center, I'm Sam Cavone. Hayden and Jake, back to you.
Thanks, Sam. While you were busy talking to 3 new Temple assistants, Jake and I were getting to dive into 2 new plays.
Yeah, we both have key plays to break down, and I'll get us started. My play is a little wild, so we're going to start it right here. This is the end of the first overtime for the game against Charlotte. This ball was released by Deja Lawrence over here in the corner. It says 1.2 right there. It left her hand at 1.7 seconds. Remember that. So we can play it again here, and the ball, spoiler alert, gonna go in. So obviously they win, right? No, let's hang on a second. Pause it here. The score sits at 75-72. Right now, Charlotte would win by 3, but if this bucket doesn't count, that would make it 72 all and force a second overtime. We can play it right here. Why is there only 1 ref? That's because the other one's bringing over a stopwatch. I've never seen this before. Pause it again. Why are they bringing the stopwatch out? It's because the clock operator accidentally pauses the clock. Charlotte was begging for a timeout, but it was never granted to them. No whistle was blown, which means that the timeout never should have happened. No time should have stopped, but the clock operator didn't get that memo, so at 5.4 seconds, it was paused and play kept resuming, which shouldn't be happening. So you can play it right here. You can see it's paused for a little bit. They continue. Then it comes back when they get this shot off. So I want you to actually pause it here one more time because we had 1.7 seconds left when it left her hand. That clock was stopped for 2.2 seconds. Let's do a little bit of math. That's negative 0.5 seconds left in the game, which means that that's going to make it no good, and Charlotte didn't get the shot off in time, even though in real time it looked like they did. It was a crazy sequence, but hey, the refs talked about it, and that was it.
Yeah, and my is similar. It's an end-of-game situation, except it's not going to be as crazy. And we're going to take another look at Jake's right here, but you can pause mine right here. So Temple is down by 2 points. Again, late-game situation. Tristan Taylor has the ball. You can't see Tiara East, who's going to eventually make the game-winning three. She's all the way on the other side off your screen. You can play it right here now. So we see Tristan Taylor. She's been in these situations before. And now pause it right here. You see, all right, we can resume it. We see Anaya Bell, she was guarding Tiara East wide open in the corner, and she's going to drain the three. Now we're going to try and get a better look at it again one more time because Tiara East has been clutch in situations this year. So we see Tristan Taylor driving in now. Stop it right here. And we see, again, that the situation was that Anaya Bell was coming in and she had to make a decision on a double team with Rain Tucker and Tiara East. And now we can resume it again. As you see, a double team, Anaya Bell with Rain Tucker and Tiara East. She's just going to go to Tucker, and it leaves East open, and she drills the shot in a very tough situation. And this time, she got it off, unlike the previous game against SMU. We are coming up on another break, but stick around. We'll be joined by OwlSports Update anchor Meg Doyle.
You've heard her talk football, but she'll be running the fast break with us when we return. Welcome back to Courts in Session. Joining us now is OwlSports Update's Meg Doyle for a little fall semester Inside the Nest family reunion.
Let me tell you, I've missed you guys.
Hey, we're missing you too, except now we're going to be talking basketball instead of football. It's time for Fast Break. All right, guys, we have not seen the men win a single game since this show started in mid-January. When do you guys see them getting their next victory?
I'm going to jump right on this. I'm feeling pretty optimistic and excited about my answer because I think they are going to take the win over Memphis on Thursday. Memphis has hit a bit of a rough patch, regardless of them just winning their last game. I think if Temple just locks in, focuses on their team chemistry, they'll have what it takes to take the win over Memphis.
I'm a little less optimistic than you, Meg. I see the next one coming against UTSA. That's 4 games from now. It'll be a home game for the Owls. UTSA is only 2-7 in conference. That's one more win than Temple has in conference, but I think Temple can get it done on that one. Okay, now my question 2. Both teams lost in overtime on Sunday. Whose loss was worse?
All right, I'm going to say it was the women. They were up 17 more than halfway through the third quarter. That game should not have even gone to overtime. They looked like the men the way they were playing, choking leads at the end of games. The men, they should have been in that game too, but I think the women's loss was way worse because they were up by so much so late in the game.
I hear you, Hayden, but I'm going to have to say the men's was worse. In overtime, Tulane had 12 consecutive points. Not to mention the Owls shot 1 for 9 and only scored 4 total points in overtime. I mean, they just completely dropped the ball, no pun intended. And not to mention, it would have broken a 6-game losing streak for the Owls, but now they're up a 7-game losing streak, which is just a lot tougher.
James with 7 to shoot.
We have seen the women harp on their equal opportunity offense, so I'm going to ask a little controversial question. Would you like to see them go away from it and just start feeding their top scorers?
No, okay, I'm taking this one because Hayden's question is crazy. No, this equal opportunity offense has been why the women have been winning games. It hasn't been just one player. We've seen it with the men. Hyzier Miller taking nearly 20 shots a game, and he's been really inefficient doing it. They have multiple scorers, Aaliyah Nelson, Tiara East, Tariana Gary, Rain Tucker. The list goes on. I think it's better when you get all those players getting shots up instead of just 1 or 2.
I agree with you there completely, Jake. The women are usually winning games with their equal opportunity offense. Not to mention, they're relying on less people if more people are contributing to the game. So say something happens, someone gets hurt, they have a whole bench they can rely on. So I think it's working well for them.
Meg, that's all the time that we have for today. I loved our little Inside the Nest reunion. Looking forward to seeing you on the desk on Thursday.
I also enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
But we're up on our last break of the day. When we come back, Kylie O'Connor will catch us up on the AAC standings when Courts in Session returns.
Welcome back to Courts in Session. Now it's time to take a peek at the standings, and it's not very pretty for the Owls.
Good thing Kylie O'Connor is here live at the studio set to catch us up on what's going on around the American. Hey, Kylie.
Thanks, guys. With both the men and women losing this past weekend, it has brought both teams down in the AAC standings. First, let's get started with the men's side of things. FAU, South Florida, and Charlotte are all dominating the American Athletic Conference. All three teams are tied for first place, sitting at 8-1 in conference play, and they are all on a 7 or 8 game winning streaks. SMU and UAB are sitting behind them, both at 6-3 in conference play. Then trails Memphis and North Texas at 5-4 in conference play. Both Temple and Wichita State last, both being 1-8 in conference play. The Memphis Tigers come to North Broad this Thursday to take on the Owls. Memphis was nationally ranked at number 10 in January, then 2 weeks ago dropped to 19th, and they are now unranked. The game will take place at the Liacouras Center starting at 7 p.m. Now moving on to the women's standings. North Texas, Tulsa, and UAB all lead the conference tied for first with a 7-3 record in conference play. East Carolina, South Florida, Charlotte, Rice, and Temple all trail behind them at 6-4 in conference play. That overtime loss looms large when we see where the Owls sits. The team that has stood out recently is South Florida. 2 weeks ago, this team was 3-4 in conference play and was 9th place in the AAC. Since then, this team has won 3 games in conference play. They beat ECU, Memphis, and UAB, which also puts the Bulls on a 3-game winning streak, boosting them into a tie for 4th in the conference play. That's all I have for today, guys. Reporting from the studio set, I'm Kylie O'Connor. It's back to you guys on the desk.
Thanks, Kylie, for catching us up. It seems like the men have a lot of catching up to do as well, and they will get that opportunity on Thursday. It will be their first of 2 straight home games, and on Thursday, it will be their annual whiteout night. And don't forget, guys, it's the return of Nick Jourdain, who transferred over to Memphis once Aaron McKee was announced he would no longer be the coach at Temple. The game will be at Thursday at 7 o'clock, and you can also catch it on ESPN2. Now, on Sunday, the Charlotte 49ers come to town. Tip-off is set for 2 p.m., and you can also stream it on ESPN+. The women host South Florida on Saturday at 3 p.m., and that game will also be streamed on ESPN+, if you can't make it in person.
Kind of similar to a lot of other gymnasts when they first got started. They just needed a place to exert all of their energy.
This Thursday, Michael Merville takes a look at record-holding gymnast Brooke Donabedian. It's Michael and Meg on the desk for OwlSports Update. Don't miss it at noon on TUTV. This wraps it up for this week's edition of Courts in Session. Make sure to follow us on socials at OwlSports Update. Now, Hayden, we saw 2 overtime games the last time both these teams played. Memphis, you seeing a third coming our way?
I don't know, Jake. I think that one might be a little bit tougher. But I'll tell you what, on Sunday, watching 15 more minutes of extra Temple basketball, pretty fun.
Yeah, but that's all we have.
From our producers, Sam Massett and Jacob Smedley, and our entire crew here at Courts in Session, I'm Hayden Banzel. He's Jake Gable. Thanks for watching, and have an amazing day.